Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, madam.
Everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, Principal Sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Everybody.
Good morning, Preeta and everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paratkar. Nice to see you, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good morning, sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Anyone please dash on the before she.
Hello, Hitesh Bhai. Namaste. Welcome. Welcome, all of you. Good morning, Neeta.
Good morning, sir.
Hello, man. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Jayaraman.
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice to have you, sir, today.
Thank you.
Nice to have you over. I wish you could visit us, like that would be different. But we have no choice. I think today we are online.
We are victims of COVID-19.
Absolutely.
Good morning to all. Good morning to all the guests.
Good morning.
Thank you, Jyoti madam, for joining us. Thank you, Jayaraman sir, for joining us. Manoj
Thank
sir,
you.
can you take over?
Yeah, thank you so much, madam. A warm good morning and a hearty welcome to all. We are honored to have a distinguished speaker for today's function, Dr. A.P. Jayaraman. Madam Jyoti Bhadkamkar, Trustee of Kelkar Education Trust. Dr. Ramesh Vaze, Founder Trustee of Kelkar Education Trust. The Secretary of Kelkar Education Trust, Dr. M.R. Kurup. Member of the Management, CA A.D. Borkar. Our Principal, Dr. Bharat Bhushan Sharma. Vice Principal, Degree College, Professor Dr. Preeta Nilesh. Vice Principal, Junior College, CA Vidyadhar Joshi. All retired principals, vice principals, both degree and junior college. Supervisors of junior college. Special invitees, guests for today's function. family members of Vaze, Kelkar, Sathe, and Kulkarni, all invited dignitaries from Mulund constituency, the teaching and administrative staff of the college, and my dear student friends. I, Manoj Sangare, welcome you all to a very special day as we commemorate our sources of inspiration, G.D. Kelkar and Dr. R.A. Kulkarni. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the 8th G.D. Kelkar and R.A. Kulkarni Memorial Lecture Series. The college has been organizing this lecture series to commemorate the birth anniversary of G.D. Kelkar and Dr. R.A. Kulkarni, which fall on 6th and 7th February respectively. G.D. Kelkar, fondly known as Bhau Kelkar, was the visionary of this institution. And Dr. R.A. Kulkarni was instrumental in translating this vision into reality. This is a small tribute we can pay to these two great personalities who have devoted their life for education and to social development through this memorial lecture series at Vaze College. The college invites eminent speakers every year, which helps all of us to gain deeper insights in various areas of knowledge. This lecture series was inaugurated in the year 2014 by the then Honorable Governor K. Sankara Narayanan. I would like to mention the names of few eminent speakers who contributed to this lecture series in the past 7 years. Dr. Narendra Jadhav, Dr. Anand Nadkarni, Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, Dr. Bal Fondke, Shri Ashok Naigaonkar, Mr. Sanjay Barve, Mr. Jayu Bhatkar, to name a few. Today we have one such distinguished speaker with us, Dr. A.P. Jayaraman. I now request our trustee, Madam Jyoti Bhadkamkar, to formally welcome our guest. Over to you.
Yes. Good morning, all of you. I welcome all of you to this memorial lecture series in memory of late Bhau Kelkar, my father and our founder, and late Dr. R.A. Kulkarni, an eminent educationist and our mentor. It is our pleasure to welcome Dr. A.P. Jayaraman of BARC as our guest speaker on the topic Nurturing Creativity and Innovation in Science and Education. Creativity, innovation, and science are a lethal combination. The very fact that we can get together on this internet platform in spite of restrictions due to a pandemic situation is an example of what the threesome can do to us. We have crossed walls and boundaries in communication. Our beloved visionary and founder, late Shri G.D. Kelkar, is an excellent role model for us. He was a creator of formulations of scents and perfumes using different aromatic raw materials and oils. The resultant innovations, that is, the iconic aromas, shall be used for times immemorial. He was an interdisciplinary scientist having knowledge of botany and chemistry and their applications. All above, combined with the art and skill of perfume making, brought him world recognition. Most important of all, he was a wonderful human being, extremely humble and noble. We all have a special connect with plants, as you all know, and hence I was understanding the difference between creativity and innovation in respect of plants. Let us take the 3 colors of bougainvillea, for example, the 3 plants with 3 colors of bougainvillea. The idea of creating a plant with all 3 colors together is creating an idea, is the idea, basically a creative idea. And innovation is the plant with all the 3 colors of flowers blooming together. So the creative idea is having a plant with all 3 colors. The innovation, after the process of creation, the innovation is a resultant plant with all 3 colors blooming happily together. Science has helped mankind to progress in leaps and bounds. We should channelize our young minds towards creativity in science that innovation will take place, so that innovation will take place to make our lives simpler and interesting. Our institute has always been research oriented, bridging gaps between academia and industry and agriculture. KT Scientific Research Centre has completed 25 years and continues to grow in the field of cosmetology, plant biotechnology, animal biotechnology, and microbiology. I urge our students to engage in education, take interest in the chosen fields, ideate, be creative, think, and channelize their minds towards innovation. It is for us to create programs and curriculums which nurture this creativity and innovation. And for guidance today, I'm really thankful for having Dr. A.P. Jayaraman for giving us his invaluable time and enlightening us with his words of wisdom. I welcome and thank all of you for joining us in this lecture series. Good day and thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, madam. That was indeed motivating for all our students towards creativity and innovation. A leader is one who lights the path to the impossible and the invisible and takes those who follow to great heights. I request Principal Dr. Bharat Bhushan Sharma, our pillar of strength and a constant source of motivation, to please present the college profile and also welcome the August gathering on this online platform. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Manoj. On behalf of Vinayak Ganesh Vaze College Autonomous, I welcome Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, Scientist BARC, Mrs. Jyoti Badkamkar, Trustee, Kelkar Education Trust, Shri Ramesh Vaze, Founder Trustee, Dhananjay Sathe, Trustee, Dr. M.R. Kurup, Secretary of the Trust, CA A.D. Borkar, Member, Kelkar Education Trust, Vice Principals, Dr. Preeta Nilesh and CA Vidyadhar Joshi, all invited guests, colleagues, and my student friends. I welcome you all to today's function, the G.D. Kelkar and R.A. Kulkarni Lecture Series. Shri Bhausab Kelkar started Kelkar College in 1984, which was then named as Vinayak Ganesh Vaze College. The college is 4 times NAC accredited A-grade college. Kelkar Vaze College was listed in top 20 colleges in India by India Today in 1998. The college was awarded status of college with potential for excellence by UGC. The college was awarded the Best College Award, University of Mumbai. The college has STAR scheme from DBT for undergraduate research. The college has 20 departments, 8 of them up to post-graduation level, and 9 PhD centers. The college has unusual courses like course in travel and tourism and a postgraduate diploma in perfumery and cosmetology. We have scientific research center and cosmetics testing center with toxicology testing done on the cell lines, and we have the formulation labs. The college has G.D. Kelkar Skill Development Center and Finishing School with a business lab, language lab, and e-learning lab. The college is very active in ISR activities, institutional social responsibilities. Our cosmetology department runs a special training in olfactory evaluation for visually challenged. we provide skill development for students and teachers industry by providing them technology. It caters to agriculture by providing tissue cultured aromatic oil plants to farmers with full buyback policy. This all has been possible due to the great vision of Shri Bhausaheb Kelkar. Shri Bhausaheb Kelkar, born on 6th February, was a great visionary and the college was his vision. I feel privileged and proud to have interacted with him from 1984 up to 2011. Dr. R.A. Kulkarni was born on 7th February and was an expert in mission of converting Bhausaheb's vision into reality. Today, Vinayak Ganesh Vaze College is an autonomous college, one of the finest teaching learning institution in the country. This has been possible because of the vision of Bhausaheb Kelkar, the way it was carried forward by Dr. R.A. Kulkarni and the then principal Dr. M.R. Kurup and the present management, the next generation of Shri Bhausaheb Kelkar. I welcome you all to the lecture series today in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Before I invite Dr. Jayaraman to address the gathering, I would like to briefly introduce him. Dr. Jayaraman doesn't require any introduction, but formally and very briefly, I will share his area of expertise and achievements. Dr. A.P. Jayaraman holds a PhD in Science, PGDMM in Management, and a Diploma in Engineering. He started his professional career at the age of 22 after graduating from the Elite Scientific Officers Training School of the Atomic Energy Establishment. He had a distinguished and diverse career in several disciplines and divisions of the Department of Atomic Energy for 40 years. After retirement, he relocated to Singapore and worked as professor of environmental engineering for Griffith University. He served as Dean Academic at Sadanam Institute of Management Studies, Palakkad, Kerala, and is the president of the Academy for STEM and is an active science communication professional and a noted author of creative science literature. He was the Chief of Media Relations at Bhabha Atomic Research Centre. He is a trustee of Indian Development Foundation and is engaged in interacting with science teachers and students across the country on next generation science standards and analytical thinking skills. He is engaged in empowering women in mask making entrepreneurship. The foundation is Field Active, providing food and support to vulnerable segments. During the COVID-19 lockdown period, he reached out to over 20,000 teachers and students on science discourses covering virology, public health, epidemiology, and scientific health management. He is a former chairman of the Indian Institute of Materials Management and has made seminal contributions to the development of supply chain management education in the country. He had a stint at the Directorate of Purchase and Stores of the Department of Atomic Energy. He is a guest faculty at numerous management institutes and B schools as well. He has delivered lectures and conducted workshops on scientific management and science education topics in USA, UK, China, Korea, Japan, Singapore, Brazil, Malaysia, and even in the Middle East. He has won the International Copernicus Award from Poland for science popularization and numerous national and state awards in science communication. He is the author for 20 science books, over 3,000 science articles, and has logged over 35,000 science and technology discourse hours. His latest book is We Are 118, an autobiography of the chemical elements, released at the Royal Society of London. With this, I invite the speaker for the day, Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, to please take the charge of microphone and share your expert knowledge on the topic, nurturing creativity and innovation in science education. The college is really honored that Dr. Jayaraman has agreed to be the speaker of this lecture series. Thank you. I would like to give some instructions before we begin with the session. Please keep your cameras switched off and your microphones muted. If you have any questions during the session, please type them into chat section. We will bring them up after the session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. At the first blush, let me thank Dr. Jyoti, the distinguished trustee, for letting me into this great program. I am personally grateful to all the illustrious trustees for allowing me to consume their time on this auspicious day. At a physical level, I am grateful to Principal Dr. Bharat Bhushanji for having written to me and conferred the honor on me to deliver this memorial talk, 8th Shri G.D. Kelkar and Dr. R.A. Kulkarni Lecture. Now, rarely do we get in the history such occasions to be in the company of very, very great people. I am thrilled to be here, and when I look at the great personalities who have delivered the lectures ahead of me, I shudder to think some of them are so much on the sensitive elevations and pinnacles of enlightenment. My senior colleague, Dr. Bal Fonke, Vice Chancellor Pillai, and Chanakya Pillai, people personally known to me and with whom I have interacted. That was a great honor for me to follow the footprints of those great personalities. I understand from the introduction given over here that this great series was started by the trustees somewhere in 2014 by the then governor, Shri Shankaranarayan. Yesterday, I tried to ring him up, as he happens to be my next door neighbor in my village. And I found that he is unwell and is recuperating for health in a hospital. Just convert his daughter that I have the rare privilege today of being a small atom in the big molecule he started in 2014. Coming to this topic, I am particularly grateful to Dr. Jyoti for the remarkable exposition, the wonderful unfolding, the most skilled uncovering of the molecular structure of science, technology, creativity, and innovation. The four parameters, the equations between which is still being debated by the scientific community, but she has given a very clear, logical, easy to understand framework, the theoretical underpinnings and the analytical framework which she has given between science, technology, innovation, and creativity is so revealing and so remarkable that it should be part of the educational campaign on this topic, all the more so in this year because the National Science Day is Science, Technology, and Innovation. So that's our topic, and we have a very clear conceptual clarification on the fundamental parameters of that. So I'm very, very happy to be with that. I also am respectfully remembering all the shakers and movers who made this event possible. Now, when I look at, I find Dr. Barve here, and when he told me the topic, he gave me absolute freedom. You can choose the topic, trusting that I will not make mistakes. But Dr. Barve is not only a scientist, not only a science communicator, but he is also an editor of a science journal. Editors have their eagle eyes. They find mistakes in love letters. Grammatical errors in love letters are being spotted by them. That is the eagle eye of an editor. So I just proposed out of academic curiosity that shall I title my talk as Scientific Creativity, a Transformative Hermeneutics. Said, speak the right language of the science communicator. That's an affectionate advice from a science communicator. And I immediately redrafted my title as Nurturing Scientific Creativity for Innovation. I was still debating within myself whether nurturing is the right word or fostering is the word. Every word in the language is a semantic vector. It has a direction and it has a magnitude. And when a speaker uses a word, he is creating a semantic volume by the application of that word. And the volume of that single word is the meaning. So if meanings are volumes of words created as semantic vectors, nurturing and fostering are two different things. So how do I choose, make a distinction between nurturing and fostering? Well, then I went into the history of thought and then came to the conclusion that, oh, that's a moment captured in history. Shankaranarayan, the 2014 great man who started your series. Yes. Coming back to on the crossroads of history and on the crossroads of history of education, you will find two landmarks, nature and nurture. Shall we go the way of nature or shall we take the route paved by nurture? That was a fundamental psychological question which all of us must have to answer. If you look at modern thinkers like Noam Chomsky, you will find it's all in nature. But the moment you accept that axiom, you also run into a problem that we are the sheer biological products of our genes, implacable, unalterable, and immovable path we will have to take. So that's what nature would say. Then if you look at the other side, a contrarian view in psychology, that is not nature, but it is the external environment, the inputs that go into the making of the human being, the external environment created by educationists. That is responsible for the development of the human personality. So we have these two conflicting, almost diametrically opposite views of nurture versus nature. So as Lord Buddha said, the golden mean has to be found, or the average, and averageness is attractiveness. We have to find out what is the nature of nurture. So the nature of nurture, or the science of nature of nurture, is the one which enables us to find our roots and meanings in creativity, innovation, and technology. Let me take you to the classical Newtonian metaphor. Sir Isaac Newton said, and that's very important today in the educational sphere, particularly with respect to scientific creativity leading to an innovation economy, it is essential that we should remember the Newtonian metaphor. And Newton said, if I have seen far ahead, if I could see far beyond other normal human beings of my intellectual capital, it is because I stood on the shoulders of giants, intellectual giants. So standing on the shoulder, science is a verb. So standing on the shoulders is the metaphor which he brought about. This had a remarkable effect. Newton could see far beyond because he stood on the shoulders of Galileo. Einstein stood on the shoulders of Newton. He could see farther. Stephen Hawking stood on the shoulders of Einstein, and he could see still farther. The horizons have enlarged and enriched too. So this is what we call the cumulative evolutionary culture. Standing on the shoulders of others, we have to be very careful because the UGC guidelines on plagiarism level 1 should not be exceeded. If you have taken more than 10% of reported expressions from other authors or writers, you are in trouble. But the evolution of science is exactly standing on the shoulders of others. If you have not absorbed 90 to 99% of what the others have said up to that point of time, you cannot see far ahead. So it is internalization of plagiarization which is happening place in order to build intellectual capital. The only point is ethics and morality should be followed, and I should tell this is where I have taken it from. I am standing on the shoulder of this person. So having understood the significance and the enormous impact Newtonian metaphor has on human civilization and education, we move to the cumulative scientific evolution. Now, if you look at the epistemological triangle or the epistemological pyramid of science, you will find there is mathematics at the bottom. Then you get physics, then you get chemistry, then you get biology, then you get sociology, and you get economics and other topics until you come to the top. So if you have this pyramid before you, you will find if you are strong on one, you will be equally strong on the other one. That is the basis of this. Now, you must understand, and while trying to understand innovation in terms of the cumulative scientific evolution, it is necessary for us just to look at the first agricultural revolution, the beginning of the first agricultural revolution, which is about 1100 years from backward in time. 1100 years backward in time, we started from a hunter-gatherer society into a relatively stable, relatively static agricultural society. That agricultural society, the material icon for that agricultural society is the plow. And the plow came in only around 6,500 years ago. So you start agriculture, make it a practice. It was not the soil chemists who worked out the soil density and the classification and categorization of soil and enabled the penetration depth of the material that will go into it, the hardness, moss scale and all that to design the plow. That was not done. So what we find from our history is there has been a technology which was compatible and which was necessary for the survival, and from that science came. So if you ask the question, which is the egg or the chicken, we have this problem. Was it science which appeared first or which became technology? And today, the current generation will see technology as a sheer, pure, uncontaminated product of science, direct application of science. But if you look into the history of science and technology, you will find the technology, the ability to use tools, the tool-making capability which changed our brain, which we refashioned our tools. And with the refashioned tools, we try to understand the nature. And understanding the nature with the tools we made us capitalists or science capitalists. So that relation, there has been a dynamic relation between science and technology over the historical horizon. It is not as clear or transparent or linear as we find it today. So I just want to bring out this point that cumulative scientific evolution. Today we are able to do better things than others. your own, I was, when principal was giving a profile of the college, I was wondering, am I listened to one of the celebrated American universities whose work profile is being described here? Because between the education and between the economy, the link has been well established with an absolute classical textbook case in the case of cosmetology by the Kelkar Foundation. That was now evident when the structure was unveiled to us a short while ago. So that is the relationship between the plow and soil chemistry. Soil chemistry came much later. Much later. Materials were discovered still later. When cellulose was used as a sharpened object for the plow, and when it was replaced when hematite was found, and when hematite was converted into iron, that was the metallurgical progression. But before that, the products or the goods and services were already delivered to us. But today, if I look at myself, or I look at a generation of my grandfather, I find they were all products of Thomas Babington Macaulay. We are Indian in blood and color, but we were English in taste, in opinion, and in intellect. That was the Macaulayan concept of education. And we today, well, most of us are, I particularly accept the fact I am a sheer product of that. We have absorbed certain values, certain aspects of Western culture, which now needs to be indigenized and totally internalized into the Indian context. But we have the freedom, we have the tools to do that, thanks to the early leverage we got because of this education. Now, education has been a subject of great concern to educationists, but of greater concern and solicitude to scientists. Now, I want to show you three great minds of recent times, and two of them with us. I had the rare privilege of working with all the three. And I know quite distinctly how uppermost in their mind education was. Let us take APJ Kalam first. Now, APJ Kalam, himself a product of high education, has given his views of Vision 2020, in which he emphasized that providing 20th century skills is the irreducible minimum of science education. He was absolutely clear that creating the 21st century, molding it and forging it in the way we want, in the desired direction, is possible only by an advanced view of where technology will lead us from the given science. Now, Kalam's vision of 2020 has not been realized. There have been unfulfilled fragments of his dream. So we look at the Technology Vision 2035, which Dr. Anil Kakodkar has so beautifully blended. And there you find his absorbing passion and engagement for education of the present generation and the immediate future generation. Technology Vision 2035 emphasizes the absolute necessity of ICTs in our educational sphere, anytime, anywhere, anyone. So those three A's can be recaptured only if we have technological infrastructure of broadband connectivity and inexpensive knowledge device tools. So that was his conception of education. Now we come to Kasturi Rangan, our spaceman, and his new education policy. I'm referring to the educational policy not at the higher levels because which most of you understand him and able to do it. I am looking at that aspect of NEP at the front end of the supply chain, at the school science education. And Kasturi Rangan said, from 6th standard onwards, we should teach coding to our students. That was, that's a brave new thought of whether we are wondering whether we are having excess of technology or excess of information technology. That was not a doubt in his mind, and NEP underlines this fact. The 6th standard is the right time to launch coding. But I was surprised when I had been on a visit to the Singapore Management University. The Management University, SMU, has been teaching 6th standard people. No, aged 6, they are coming to the Singapore Management University for learning the basic elements of coding. So coding at 6th standard in India, coding at the age of 6 in Singapore. Now, if you recall the distinction between Indian education system and the Singapore education system, you'll find out in PISA, the Program International Student Assessment Scale, Singapore stands first and foremost all the time. First or second, maybe sometimes China overtakes. So what has been ingrained into the Singaporean system of education, which is reflected in the PISA values? I am not in absolute agreement with what PISA does, but as a measurable quantitative parameter which enables us to distinguish between different educational systems of different nationalities, PISA is a good average indicator. And that shows the earlier you begin, at the very front end of the supply chain, you will be able to produce. A 14-year-old child today in Singapore stands far above, standing on the shoulders of all other 14-year-olds for the rest of the world, thanks to their educational system. So what we are trying to produce in the education system, if you look at the Renaissance age, you had the flowering of geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci. Now, if you want to categorize and classify him into an intellectual pigeonhole, where will you put him? A painter, a poet, an engineer, an architect? He fits into all of them remarkably well. With easeful grace, elegance, he will fit into any of the academic disciplines he will do. Same with Michelangelo. So personalities, integrated personalities of that genius is diminishing and declining with the passage of time. And what has appeared is an intellectual flowering, verticals. Now, what I am trying to say is creativity and innovation can be created by only a change in mindset, not only of the educators, the educational curriculum, and creating not a single mindset, but a blend of at least 5 mindsets. And today, some experimental evidence, we have fairly good experimental evidence in the international baccalaureate systems, where this attempt, this evidence-based reasoning of integrating the mindset, not with one, but with at least 5 different mindsets. I would like to dwell a little long on this subject because I have a passionate commitment to this. So as a scientist, our first preference is we should have deep knowledge of a discipline. If I am a physicist, I should know physics well. If I'm a nuclear physicist, I should know the nucleus well. Now, that depth, the intensity of knowledge is what I call the Ramanic effect. Sir C.V. Raman, the only science Nobel laureate this country got. And if you look at Raman and Raman's discovery and his passionate commitment to physics, all that he did was with an equipment which in a purchase department like mine where I worked, it cost just 1,200 rupees. With an equipment, a pocket spectrometer which cost just 1,200 rupees, and a few reflected mirrors and 1 or 2 filters, he was able to discover one of the most fundamental basic axioms of physics. That when photons traverses through a transparent medium which is free from dust, the photonic energy changes. It either increases or decreases, and that's what the Raman effect is. And he described the Stokes and the anti-Stokes lines. So as far as the Raman spectra is concerned, or the advanced Raman spectra, which we use all over the laboratories, in fact, in cosmetology, you'll be using this infrared spectrum for identifying the functional groups. And Raman spectra comes to be it is the chemical tool for almost all material sciences. So that is the depth of knowledge which Raman represented, which is absolutely essential as part of the contemporary education, and all the more so for the next education. I want to be gender neutral, and I have the classical example of Liz Meitner over here, whose depth of knowledge of atomic fission was as great as that of Raman. So the Ramanic mindset or the Meitnerian mindset are equally important as the first mindset which all this current generation should have. When Meitner found out that the uranium-235 atom can be bombarded with a neutron and uranium-236 can be temporarily created, it undergoes a dynamic deformation of the nucleus, breaks into barium and krypton, and 3 more neutrons are released, which in turn hits another 3 atoms, and a chain reaction starts. That fundamental discovery, the ushering in of the atomic age, and the launching of the nuclear age has been fundamental to the discovery of Liz Meitner. So Ramanic mindset and Meitnerian mindset are absolute essential for the contemporary generation. But it is not enough. Beyond that depth of knowledge, beyond that depth of domain disciplinary knowledge, we need to cross over to the neighboring disciplines. And we have the classical example of Marie Skłodowska-Curie over here. She discovered radioactivity, that phenomenon which was not understood at that point of time. Then beyond the physics, having obtained a Nobel Prize in sharing a Nobel Prize in physics, she moved to chemistry and won a Nobel Prize in chemistry all by herself. Her depth of physics and her absolute mastery over chemistry brought her 2 Nobel Prizes, a remarkable achievement for any scientist. So that is a classical model where the synthesizing mindset, beyond the disciplinary mindset of Raman and Meitner, we need to have the synthesizing mindset of Marie Skłodowska-Curie. To the right, you will find Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev, who went one step forward of finding out how to synthesize things. There were a very small number of elements at that point of time when he was designing the periodic table. And today, all the 118 elements of the periodic table, right from hydrogen to agadison, can be beautifully packed into his famous periodic table. And beyond that arrangement of the physical table, which is a physical reality, he also proved that out of the chaos caused by the confusion of the indeterminateness and diversity of the chemical elements, he could produce an orderly system of elements. And that orderly system of elements reflected their dialectical unity and also their genetic interrelationship. So finding out a dialectical unity and genetic interrelationship was a possibility. It was an attribute which he had because of his synthesizing mindset, his depth of knowledge on chemistry and his depth of knowledge on physics. Together, beyond Raman, beyond Meitner, we came to the Marie and Mendeleev era, having the second mindset. So we are now trying to internalize 2 mindsets. Now, to those 2 mindsets, we have to add the 3rd dimension. And the 3rd dimension is the creativity which Dr. Jyoti emphasized right at the beginning. Now, creativity is known to us. We all know that great creative people, Albert Einstein, Charles Darwin. That is creativity of a huge dimension, mega creativity. But we are needing creativity at a lower level. We should have small creativity, mini creativity, nano creativity, creativity at lower levels, and that is what our student generation is capable of. So when I refer to creativity, let us see creativity in its highest form, Albert Einstein. What he did, he said, the laws of physical phenomena are the same when stated in systems of reference in translatory motion. When he said that the laws of physical phenomena are the same when stated in terms of uniform translatory motion, and added that the velocity of light in vacuum is a constant and is independent not only of the direction of propagation, but also of the relative velocity of the source and the observer, he was creating a poem. He wrote that simple equation E is equal to mc squared. Truth is beauty, beauty is truth. If Keats could say that, Einstein could say it far better than that. Now, that was creativity at its best. Stephen Hawking stood on his shoulders, but he did not touch that equality, that equivalence between mass and energy, which remains the basic axiom in theoretical physics even today. But I am now trying to look at Venki Ramakrishnan, who has just stepped out as the President of the Royal Society of London, a rare honor for an Indian. Now, look at Dr. Venki Ramakrishnan. He doesn't use the word doctor, nor does he add the title FRS, Fellow of the Royal Society. One of the greatest honors, very few Indians, hardly 6 of them today have that. He neither uses the title doctor, nor does he use the nominal after the name, post name nominal FRS. Now, he studied physics. And after mastering the nuances and delicacies of all about theoretical physics, he moved over to biology. And that rare combination, that remarkable synergy between biology and physics at the hands of Venki Ramakrishnan brought about a new revolution in genetics today. So we are now finding creativity at operational level, at the highest level Einstein, the operational level we find Venki. And today at much lower levels, I'll come to one of the examples much later of a small amount of creativity. So we have the big creativity, the small creativity. Now, after achieving those 3 dimensions of discipline mindset, synthesizing mindset, creative mindset, the 4th mindset, essential from a sociological perspective, is the respectful mindset. The respectful mindset calls for, basically, in a world of conflicting ideas, in a world of contrarian positions, how do we arrive at an acceptable formulation? When you have entirely different views, as we started with our nature-nurture relationship, and coming back to a science of nature and nurture, we find 2 personalities. One is Kalam, who has been able to deal with the high scientific, diametrically opposite science views. When Kalam speaks to them and comes back, there is absolutely tranquility and peace descending after his discourse. To my left, you will find, to preserve gender parity, I hold Bertland, Ambassador Bertland, as another example. When she was given, for example, the word sustainability is well known to us. All of us speak about sustainability, sustainable development goals, 17 goals, and all these things are known to us. But there are 200 definitions of sustainability. And the technical experts were debating how to arrive at a definition of sustainability. Then it was Ambassador Bertland who said that, who gave the classic definition for sustainable development. She defined sustainable development as the development which proceeds without jeopardizing the resources for the present generation and for the future generations. It was that dynamic equilibrium between the wants and needs of the present generation with respect to the future generation, and arriving at an acceptable formulation for that. She defined that development which preserves resources for the future generations without consuming it totally now and here. So that was the definition she gave to sustainable development. It is important for us to understand that this definition is vital, not desirable or essential, because based on this definition, we understand that sustainable development is the pathway to achieving the condition of sustainability. Words have been defined, ideas have been clarified, conceptual frameworks have been created, thanks to her remarkable exposition of what sustainable development is. And today, when we are speaking about the 17 sustainable development goals, we will find all the SDGs have this paradigm built into it. So having obtained the 4th mindset, we now look up to the great 5th mindset, which I call the moral mindset or the ethical mindset. Probably in literature today, the word ethical is being preferred over the word moral because of the overtones associated with the word morals. Now, we find our former president, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, as a classic example of ethical mindset. I will give one example. When the nuclear proliferation treaty was being discussed, and the Cold War was its height, and whether nations should go nuclear or not nuclear. Dr. Radhakrishnan, the philosopher in him, gave an ethical dimension. And he put humanity at rest by his interpretation and acceptation of what the state of the world will be in a technologically dominated situation. He said, if we plunge the world into a nuclear holocaust, either by accident or by design, we will go down in history, not as responsible citizens, but as lunatics. And the verdict on history will be, the verdict of history on civilization will be suicide in a state of unsound mind. And he added, suicide in an unsound mind should not be performed. That was a philosopher's cautionary warning to a world polarized by Cold War, and was when anybody who reads the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists will find that to midnight there are only 3 seconds more. That 3-second moment was put at rest by Dr. Radhakrishnan's classic statement on this, which reflected ethics at its best. But today when we read and study ethics as a discipline, just as I spoke about Raman's discipline or Meitner's discipline, as a disciplinary subject, when we delve deep into that, we find ethics from the Harvard University professor, Michael Sandel. Michael Sandel currently engages our attention because he told us what to do and what not to do. The natural and probable consequences of our action is important. And we as logicians understand the natural and probable consequences of our action. But most of us are not aware of the natural and probable consequences of our inaction. What we do is important. What we do not do is equally important or sometimes more important. This importance and the relative weightage between action and inaction, of doing something and not doing something, is classically explained by the trolley problem, which he has used in classrooms to explain his ethics. I will just give a small narration of how it looks like. You have a train, you have an engine coming on a track. There is a Y junction. Exactly at the point of the Y junction, the brake fails. The driver can only either turn it to the left or turn it to the right. And when we do that, if you find on the two tracks, a principal and vice principal are walking on the left side of the track. Physics, chemistry, biology, maths teacher, 5 of them are walking on the right track. If you turn to the left, principal and vice principal will vanish into atoms. And to the right, 5 will go. Now you have a moral choice. And you have only a choice. You can either turn to the left or to the right. What will you do? What will you not do? That was the classical question he asked. If you turn to the left, 2 will die. If you turn to the right, 5 will die. Is the life of 2 and life of 5 weighing grudging scales of your own ethics? Then you make a decision. That becomes very complex too. But if you think of this thought experiment, if you imagine an overbridge on which a huge man is standing, and if you push that huge man in front of the train will stop. Then all the 7, 2 plus 5 can be saved. Will you sacrifice one person for 7? You might probably do that. But if that person happens to be your father, will you do it or not? Contextualized, problematized situations. That is what ethical mindset puts you in very sharp junctions. So what I'm suggesting here is that we should have 5 mindsets. The Ramanic mindset, the Mendelian mindset, the Einsteinian mindset, the Kalam mindset, and the Michael Sandel mindset. That is what some of the new advanced next generation schools are trying to create and have successfully created in many cases. Now, that will definitely create innovation for the simple reason that you have verticals, the depth of knowledge, the breadth of knowledge, and the stretch of knowledge, and the 3 dimensions have been well taken care of, and that have been supplemented with the right amount of ethics and respectfulness. But innovation also needs leadership. educational leadership. If you are getting students of this type, it's here you will find that if you are a leader, you can be a pioneer. You are driven by your absolute curiosity and your passion for doing things, and you are a pioneer. Or you have some people with you whom you will drive to there with maximum energy to a distant direction, and you can do it. Or if you are a manager, you'll be integrating their efforts together, and you'll be able to produce something. Or like a guardian angel, from a distance, you can watch and see that the system moves accordingly. What we find today, for example, if you look at the business chemistry of the Deloitte educational system, or the Deloitte company, which is developing leadership for innovation, we will find that these 4 qualities of pioneering leadership, driverhood leadership, integrating leadership, and guardian leadership are required in equal measure, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, making it a pioneer. So the holistic approach of innovation leadership depends on the summation of 4 different parameters. Every textbook will tell you this, what is the taxonomy, starting from remembering. And remember, we are extremely good at remembering. We have a fascination for rote memory. We can produce 10 pages of text material, and we have also remarkable capability of photographic memory of retrieving it at any point in time. But from there to understanding it is a different affair. Understanding and applying is a different thing. I know that, I do not know how. So today we find a situation where I know that, many I know that's, but very few I know hows. And from there, analyzing that and evaluating, putting a monetization value and creating the goods and services, that's where the innovation taxonomy of the economy comes in. Now, presently when we are speaking about innovation, there is a science-directed linear relation. Take science, apply its principles, make a technology, and produce something for the market. So that is a linear relationship. And most of us tend to think that a linear relationship, that's a simple shot. As 2, if you have 2 points, the shortest that you can draw between them is a straight line. And unfortunately, life is not a straight line. Life is full of curves and bumps. And innovation, from science to innovation, there is not a straight line. There is an ecosystem that has to be created for technology to come to fruition in terms. And here you will find that it's the problem-solving mindset which the next generation science standards is emphasizing is most important. For us, we live in a world of problems. Everything is a problem. But we must understand that everything we can encounter, it's not a problem, it's a mess or a difficulty or an issue created by our own action and inaction. We make mess, we make difficulties. They are not problems. In the scientific sense, a problem is a significant difference between what is and what should be. If this is where we stand and this is where we ought to stand, it is the delta D between the two, that is what a problem is. A problem should be a significant difference. It should not be a personal difference for me or 2 of my friends. It should be universally acknowledged. Significant difference for all people, then only you can solve it. And the problem solution is not a lock and key solution. You have one lock and you have one key, you open it, the problem is solved. Today, creativity gives you, if you have one problem, you should be able to generate n solutions. And after creating n solutions for one problem, you should be evaluate and create scenarios corresponding to each solution. And for one problem, you have n solutions and n scenarios. Out of that n scenarios, you should be able to throw away n-1 solutions and accept one. That painful, poignant process of selection and rejection. That is what innovation is about. These are products, solutions created by your own brilliance. And you have n solutions. You are going to throw away n-1 solutions, murder your darlings. And it's an extremely painful, tragic process for you to murder your own darlings and to accept one out of n. So That's what the problem solving situation is. But when you think about it, when the reflective phase, you will get the Dr. Bharvi. Have I exceeded
Yes,
my
sir.
time? I have another 5
No,
minutes.
sir, you can go on. So,
No,
sir,
no,
go
no,
on,
please
go
tell
on.
me.
It is mesmerizing, sir. You are deciphering creativity. Sir, go on, thought.
But even creativity should have boundaries. Okay, fine.
Yeah, no boundaries, sir. Boundaryless.
Thank you, Dr. Baru. Thank you. So once we reflect and create an awareness about it, we gather information, and information is a commodity. It's a perishable commodity. It's a time-bound commodity. Yesterday morning's information is not evening's information. So commodity information should be seen as a commodity. It has appropriability, it is valuability, and it is perishability. These are the three parameters under which information is operating today. So that we should understand. And when we analyze information, there's a transient character attached to that. Based on that comes your planning, deciding what to do, how to do it, when to do it. So when we do those managerial concepts of visionary planning, then planning is only a plan. It's something in paper, a cellulose and lead paper. But implementing the plan, executing it, and monitoring it, and delivering it into goods and services, into deliverables, as engineers would call it, that is where the innovation ends. So innovation may appear many things to many people, and many people describe, because their intimate experience gives you enormous confidence, and in their enormous confidence, they have missed the forest, they will know the tree well. This is one of the problems which we find particularly in engineering sciences, because when you tackle a small portion of a problem, we know what it is in all its intensity, in all its depth, but the overall problem is lost and we miss the forest. That shouldn't happen. Now, if you look at, this has been recognized as a problem, the problem between science, technology, and innovation. So in our country, I'm not referring to the UNESCO and other countries and other international organizations and other countries who have developed their own science and technology policies. We have our first science technology policy, that's the Science Policy Resolution in 1958. It's first one. Then in 83, we had our second policy in which we gave greater stress on technology. We call it a technology policy, and the first one we call a science policy. So in 15 years' time, no, in 25 years' time, we had a transition from science to technology. Then in 2003, we decided, let us not do it like this. We'll have a science and technology policy and integrated. Then in 2013, we became contemporary. We became STI, from S to ST to STI. And in 2020, just last month, Government of India closed. They asked for public comments on their science technology innovation policy 2020, and we currently have the latest policy in our country. Now, I was doing a mathematical modeling of this program, and when I did a mathematical program based either on a linear graph or on a logarithmic graph or on a quadratic equation or also in a R4 square, you find the next technology policy will come either 5 years or hopefully 43 years in a counterfactual case. That's counterfactual. That means mathematical modeling of the immediate past doesn't provide you mathematical solutions. It gives you insights, but the mathematical, because today we are all discussing mathematical modeling with respect to the COVID-19 epidemiological parameters. And a simple fact of the history of the science policy of the last 5, projecting into a technological forecasting into the next one, the very year itself will become problematic when you do a mathematical modeling. So now we come to the visible luminous parameters of innovation. There is a innovation index, it's called a global innovation index, and countries stand on a ladder, and some are on the top. Of course, there should be somebody at the bottom. Here you will find again that Switzerland, UK, Sweden, Netherlands, and even Singapore stands 7th in the Global Innovation Index of the knowledge economy. And if you find, we have now recently made some advancements. In 2014, we were the 100th country in the Committee of Nations. From that position, we have reached to the 50th ranking very recently, but we still have miles to go. Now, innovation can be understood very easily. Any change into the parameters will do produce a theoretical innovation. But what is required is a structural change. If you have round watermelons converted into square ones, from the logistics point of view, stacking them may be advantageous. But this is a cosmetic innovation. But if you look at the Tata's nano car, you will find its design and its functionality extremely useful for the Indian economy and for the Indian roads. So we will call it an iconic innovation. But a problem that comes to my mind today, and which is engaging the attention of most of the energy thought leaders, is this. We are burning the sixth element, carbon, in a large measure, creating carbon dioxide, a very simple oxidation reaction, carbon to carbon dioxide. But the carbon dioxide has some properties, thermal properties, which retains heat and makes the world warm. I may not feel it today and tomorrow, but experts are now of the opinion that a 2 degree Celsius change in temperature will produce calamitous, catastrophic changes in our climate. To remove that, it is necessary for us to reduce the consumption of carbon. So energy scientists are now, the attention engaging activity of our energy scientists today is containing carbon sequestration. And one of the finest challenges where innovation is required today is in carbon sequestration or capturing carbon. A very multidimensional and extremely societal impact factor is the biochar part. Human fecus, which is an inevitable product of our metabolism, is being produced regularly and systematically, but is not being regularly and systematically processed. The privileged among us have access to toilet system culture. But even that toilet system culture, which is a life cycle of 5 years or so, and if it's not properly managed, you have a problem of management of fecal septage. Now, if currently the attention is being given to an innovation, which is called biochar, where the biomass is being converted to charcoal. And that charcoal will help you to use as a soil appender and keep it away from the carbon cycle for 100 or so years. So capturing carbon and holding it close to the soil, not as it doesn't give any fertilizer value, but it helps you to manage your carbon footprint and biochar production. And if a country like India, where the fecal septage along with the biomass could be converted into amorphous carbon, which can be used as a soil conditioner to retain carbon away from its climatic changes it can produce, that is one which will need innovation of a great order. Now, in Maharashtra at Wai, there is a fecal septage plant which has 70 tons per day capacity, built at a cost of 1.8 crore with an annual maintenance cost of 24 lakhs. But here is a prototype of a pilot plant which is operational, and more of it will be required. And this is a still better one, thinking of the biomass cultivation. If the effluents, the liquid effluents from this could be converted to a rapidly multiplying biomass like Eichhornia classicus and could be put back, the carbon sequestration factor could be increased. It calls for innovation. Now, even in a very small situation like a rat trap, there are still rats and mice playing when cats are away. And we have still not decided the right track for us, because innovation has not very successfully converged into this product. So I would like to sum up with a line from Shakespeare, which says, "The lover, the lunatic, and the poet are all of imagination compact." If you change the word lover into a knowledge lover, and lunatic insanity is passionate commitment. So if you have a knowledge lover with a passionate commitment, with imagination, and imagination is the difference between an object and the implications of an object. Imagination is the difference between the problem and the scenarios which we have referred a short while ago. If you can differentiate that, and then the knowledge lover, passionate, and with imagination will be able to produce an innovation work. We know our problems. We should be able to recognize, evaluate, and control those problems by appropriate innovations. But directed applied science per se may not achieve that. Applied directed science through technology, through a tortuous route, will take us to the world of innovation, which we are looking for. And it is only fitting and proper, and is poetic justice indeed, that science, technology, innovation policy is being put into framework from this year. And the new generation will understand the implications of that policy statement. And educators, I am sure, will tune into that wavelength and that frequency, so that the national objectives on science, technology, and innovation are fully measured. And the founders of the Kelkar family would have been more delighted when their personal dream and their family dream has been realized at a national level this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful and eloquent speech. This has been an enriching experience for all of us. Thank you, Dr. Jayaraman, for taking us through 5 different mindsets, which are really essential for generating creativity and innovation for us all, and the aspiring mindsets and the aspiring minds too. Now we will go ahead and take some time for questions. Just a reminder, please jot down any thoughts you have so we can talk about them. It looks like we have a few questions. Can we take questions, Dr. Jayaraman?
Sure.
Yeah. So Ms. Bhagyashree Tendulkar asked, as the world faces today the drawbacks of absence of ethical mindset in implementation of science, what according to you are the ways and means to correct ourselves and make progress in true sense of the term?
Scientific progress will create situations. It is a double-edged weapon. Whether it can be used for our good or for our bad situation depends on the application. Therefore, development of sociology, in fact, physical sciences have developed sufficiently, but humanities and sociology have not been able to make an impact on science. I know that engineering colleges, IITs, even Imperial College London teaches a course on humanities and sociology for engineers. Engineering mindset should be tempered with the right amount of sociological perspective. And it is only the soft sciences, that is sociology, anthropology, and humanities, will be able to correct any directional mistake which science might use. And therefore, most of the contemporary thinkers are emphasizing on the value of ethics as an education. You can see numerous courses on ethics being delivered to engineers because they are the creators and producers of products and services. If you produce goods and services which have deleterious effects on the society, that can only be neutralized by appropriate dosage of sociological importance. Therefore, I believe that the sociology and humanities will be able to control the accelerated movement of technology.
Thank you, sir.
Understood.
One small point I will like to add here. Sir, you talked about creativity also as one point, and as there are various means and ways of learning so many things, is there a way to learn creativity which can lead to good thing? As a authority, I will like to get the answer from you.
First, I must admit I am not an authority on creativity. But I understand that if, as Einstein said, the creativity is hiding the original. As long as you are not detected from whom we have stolen, it's creative. No, that's not correct. But creativity has a history of doing things differently, Now, I'm not thinking about the large creativity, the mega C, the small creativity in our daily life. There are if you have 2 or 3 solutions available for a problem, and if you do all the 3 and then you find one of them is good and 3 of them are bad, that is creativity. The process of selection and rejection I refer to. So understand creativity, the great people who have done creative work in the past, the large people like Charles Darwin and Newton and so on. But there are small people. If you see the history of technology, you will come to know the difference between creativity. So creativity is only a new way of doing things. If I have been doing it, if I am starting every day by putting my right foot forward, one day I will put my left foot forward and be creative on that. Creativity is a little deviation from what you have been doing. And if the consequences are bad, reject it. So at a practical level, at a pragmatic level, trial of error. If it's an error, lose it. But your courage, that brave new concept of doing things differently, slightly differently, even in a very, very micro scale. And if you find the difference is in your favor, accept it. Creativity is that acceptance of very small deviations, which is beneficial to you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm really very much satisfied with your answer. Thank you.
There is one more question, sir, by Dr. K.G. Bhole. What if only creative mind but not innovative, and only innovative but not creative?
Yes, there is a dichotomy with this situation. All creative minds at ideation level, you can have a large number of ideas. A brainstorming session or a brain dancing session will produce a large number of ideas. But ideas evaporate like fragrance cosmetics, they evaporate very fast. Unless you can translate an idea into a material, and that material should be refashioned by appropriate engineering tools to deliver a goods or a service for the benefit of society, it doesn't become an innovation. In fact, today, if you Google the word innovation, the word innovation is mostly used in management schools. And management schools there are professors, there's a chief innovation officer in every modern company. PricewaterhouseCoopers has got a chief innovation officer. Deloitte has got a chief innovation officer. So innovation officer is one who converts that idea and engineering product into a profit-making bottom line improvement situation. So innovators are profit makers in that sense. Now the question is whether all innovators are creators. No. The creators are different, and that is why I showed a hexagon. Somebody will create, and there somebody will push it, somebody will leverage it, then there will be somebody within the organization to defend that creativity, and the product is made. So the innovator need not, Thomas Alva Edison was not a great scientist, but he was a great innovator. But today, because of the information explosion, a lot of scientific data is available, information is available. So since I know that, since we have a lot of information, it is impossible to be innovative today without information. So contemporary innovators or future innovators will be solidly based on engineering and science. I am only referring to scientific creativity. If you want to create a poem better than that of 12th Night, probably an artificial intelligence and a computer will be able to produce a poem better than Shakespeare. That's a different story. But innovation can be based in science, directed by technology, conditioned by sociology, the product will come. And increasingly it will have the 5 mindsets I referred to.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question from Vaze College. He wants to ask that how could we consciously differentiate between knowledge and wisdom, and thereby which one has an upper hand in advancement of humanity?
I am reminded of the poem, where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? That is the hierarchy which Thomas Gray wrote in his Wasteland. Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? Today, in the information explosion, we are all carriers of a huge burden of information. We have not processed that information into knowledge itself. So conversion of information into knowledge is the first step. But we can be extremely knowledgeable and yet be very unwise. One of the early philosophers, one of the latest, not latest, 20th century philosophers, Sir Bertrand Arthur William Russell said, between information and knowledge and wisdom, it is how we manage our personal life. And he gave a remarkable equation. A good life is one inspired by love and guided by knowledge. Love without knowledge and knowledge without love are equally dangerous. You have all the knowledge of the nuclear physics and you put a drop at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You have all the knowledge about COVID-19. You call all the people to your house and I will help you. That is love without knowledge. So the wisdom consists in blending love of society, love of your fellow beings. That is where we refer to the need for sociology to be introduced into physical sciences. So wisdom comes at a higher level, beyond information. We have data, we have information, we have knowledge, and we have wisdom. And the way to wisdom is through ethics. And matured ethics will lead to morality, and morality will give wisdom. And that is where a sociological soft sciences have to develop.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question, sir. Ms. Rita Kamble wants to ask, the example you gave for the ethical mindset about the train, what should be ethically correct, sir?
This is the relativity of ethics. What we were discussing in that particular trolley problem, a thought experiment, which the Harvard professor Michael Sandel does is, what will you do depends on your personal reference. If you do not like that heavy man at the bridge, you would like that to be sacrificed because you have a personal angle to that. Every morality, every ethics should be weighed in the grudging scales of subjective personal factor. Am I to gain anything by doing this? Is it my selfish interest that drives me to perform this? Am I not borrowing words and putting it a platitudinous stress and attractively package it and selling it as a universal fact? Test yourself. Am I being benefited by this? Is do no harm. That should be the underlying principle. The Hippocratic Oath says do no harm. So if we accept the maxim that do no harm is the first action principle, whatever I do, it should do. And if you feel that the harm has to be done, how to do minimum harm? If harm has to be done to 100 people, can it be done for 99 people? So there is a quantitative basis for it. It's a qualitative basis for it. It's one of the most complex, mind-boggling problems in humanity. And the more knowledgeable you are, the more problems you encounter. Ignorance is a bliss when it is a folly to be wise. If you know so many things, there are so many options, and options will make you mad. So you need very high level of wisdom to apply your discussion.
Yeah. Sir, what is the role of a science communicator in the times of pandemic? Dr. Dinesh wants to know from you, sir.
Extremely important question, most sensitive question, and most difficult question to answer. The science communicator today has a baffling variety of information coming from a variety of places. We have information, we have misinformation, we have disinformation, and so we do not know what is the right source. If you look at the number of retractions done by papers like Jancet, New English Medical Journal, they're retracting their papers. And if you publish whatever conclusion they have given and diffused to a larger community, you have done a harm to that. So the first responsibility of a science communicator is to verify how strong the fact is. And only facts, peer-reviewed journals, well recognized by experts. For example, if Fauci says something, I would like to take it at face value because he knows all about vaccinology. So you must know who are the experts, who are the real experts, and how misinformation, in fact, your ability to discern this between information, misinformation, and disinformation. Information is a measure of the disorder of a system. So negative disorder, we have to find out. Science communicators have the largest problem in 2020. They have an explosion of information on COVID. Do this, do that. And after 3 days, it is withdrawn. So in fact, I had even requested someone, don't communicate for 10 days because the plethora of information was conflicting. It's better to be silent when you are working. Science communicators were put to their highest test, and many of us have failed in that.
Yeah, there is a question from one of our student, Yatin Panchar.
Yeah.
He wants to ask, sir, nowadays most of the students are thinking that if he or she taking any of the subject for his or her career, then he or she will learn and get knowledge only about that particular subject. So what is your advice to them?
This is that 5 mindset problem we discussed. If I study physics and if I study classical physics, in physics itself, you have got modern physics, astrophysics, and several branches. So this is an age of super hyper specialization. So you should do that only after graduation, a basic understanding of See, up to 12th, we are getting a good grounding of physics, chemistry, biology, physical sciences. Right now, the definition has changed. We have physical sciences, we have biological sciences, we have earth sciences, and we have the engineering sciences. So this is the 4th category which is now being done up to 12th standard. When you go to the graduation, you will have to naturally take one of the main streams. But after graduation, you must take a decision. Now, is it time for me to specialize in quantum electrodynamics? From physics, I want to go to quantum electrodynamics. Fine, you are taking. But from physics, now you are taking a decision. I would like to study genetics and go into biophysics. That decision is yours. So yesterday, Dr. Kulkarni was answering this question, that graduation and that 12th standard is not the right decision for career making because you yet do not know the taste of the world. But at a graduate level, you have been exposed to the wider world, and a large number of intellectual capitals have been flourished before you, and you have your own fascinations for some of them, and you are at a better place to choose. So even if you have graduated in a certain subject, you have a migration available to that. And that is where the mindset comes in. You have a larger responsibility. Current generation has a larger responsibility than I had in the choice of my career. And if you make the wrong choice, you will have problems.
Last couple of questions we'll take, sir. Ms. Arpita Joshi wants to know that which academic activities, according to you, would promote promotion and creativity in the young minds?
Yes. Understanding mathematics first, that is why we are speaking of coding in the 6th standard by the National Education Policy. If you do not have the right numeracy, you cannot be a creative bent of mind. Look at Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci, man is the measure of all things. He was knowing the length of your stretched arms, the height from head to foot, and he has put a circle around it. Numeracy, understanding numbers, importance of numbers is essential part of modern scientific creativity. So, and I would again, please remember the epistemology pyramid I mentioned. At the bottom of the pyramid was mathematics, by which I am not referring to quadratic equations or linear progressions, but numeracy. On numeracy, if you want a clarified mind of all the subjects today, non-descriptive, physics stands at the front end. A mind trained on the elevations of physics, Venkataraman, former president of the Royal Society, from physics to biology. Now see the clarity he brought from physics. Now look at Mendeleev. The clarity he had in physics, he brought to chemistry. So you are finding the vertical depth, the synthesizing mindset, and the disciplined mindset. So in the disciplined mindset, both Liz Meitner and Raman brought the strength of physics. So understanding physics, Newtonian physics, and classical physics, at least for some time, is absolutely necessary. There is a volume of physics called Lectures by Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman's physics is the understanding of the world itself. You can take off to any branch after reading Richard Feynman's 3 lectures, 3 volumes on physics. So even if you have not taken any other subject, an introduction to a classic work on physics will broaden your mind in the choice of your career itself. And you find physicists flourishing in several fields, including in the banking sector.
Sir, how sustainability mindset can be created in young generation?
Yes.
Shirisha Gupta madam wants to know from you.
Yes, extremely important question. Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 3 and 4, right from hygiene and health at KG, kindergarten, early childhood education. At the early childhood education, you should select SDG appropriate, particularly hygiene and water. And if children are taught the concepts of conserving water, quality of water, the quantity of water we use, and the leaky junctions of water, how we misuse it, the first tottering step towards the sustainable mindset is created by appropriate teaching of the correct SDG at the early childhood education. And water and hygiene is the best thing to start with. That SDG goal should be the right for early childhood education.
And the last question, sir, can philosophy help in development of science and innovation?
Yes, philosophy, academic philosophy is defined as an effort to understand nature. In fact, science was called natural philosophy in olden times. It was not science separate. It was only in 1828 when Lord Bowell, he coined the word science. And then only we got to the word science. Till that, it was called a natural philosophy. All the Greek philosophers, Democritus' atomic theory, Kanada's atomic theory, they are all part of philosophy. But when philosophy was conceptual, that is why astronomy developed in Greece. But when Renaissance came and we started doing things, there are 2 ways of things, knowing things and doing things. If you are only trying to know things that the universe is made up of atoms, or philosophy. But if you are doing an experiment in CERN and smashing the atom, you are being scientific about it. So science is an evolutionary, I spoke about the cultural evolution theory. Science evolved out of philosophy. But today philosophy has such an important bearing on the universe. For example, any study of astronomy and astrophysics is possible only by an understanding of cosmology and the philosophical implications of that. But today's philosophy is scientific philosophy. So there was old basket of philosophy from which science emerged. And today science combined with philosophy and we have scientific philosophy. That's the 3 baskets which as I see it.
Thank you so much, sir. It looks like we have covered all of our questions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Manoj, for being so nice to me.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now I request Madam Shirisha Gupta to propose a vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you, Manoj sir. And a warm and cherished good afternoon to all. Myself, Shirisha Gupta, the co-convener of the Shri G.D. Kelkar and Dr. R.A. Kulkarni Memorial Lecture Series. And in the very first place, I thank our principal sir and vice principal madam for giving me this opportunity to do this work. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of all those who made this occasion a memorable event. As wise men and women always say, that gratitude is when memory is stored in the heart and not in the minds, which is a real sentiment for today's function. On behalf of Kelkar Education Trust's Ganesh Vaze Autonomous College, as well as from our audience side, I thank you, Dr. Jayaraman sir, for sharing your precious time and insightful thoughts on the enchanting ways of science education. Today, we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this is definitely encouraging us and our young students. Your thoughts on various and widespread issues connected to the topic, such as significance of man-nature relationship, the most important part, the duty of all the teachers sitting over here to, of course, to give birth to sustainability among the young minds to whom we are teaching in the classrooms. The importance of creativity at the lower levels and the higher levels of education. Sir, you explained in such a lucid and simple language, and it will really going to help our young students. You also explained to us, sir, the great contributions of Indian and international scientists in creating mindsets. And we all came to know today about the mindsets of different types, such as creating disciplinary, synthesizer mindset, ethical mindset, respectful mindset, and also the problem solving mindset. To create innovative leadership in nurturing of science education, your thoughts will be really very helpful to us and our students. They will benefit our science stream students not only, but also to our non-science background students and to all of us teachers sitting here in this meeting. And also, sir, we promise you that we will also do our best to create creativity and sustainability in our young students. Thank you for answering all our questions and queries. It was a very long list, sir. So I thank you sincerely for attending to all our questions and doubts raised by us teachers and also students in very simple language with the use of number of metaphors. So thank you so much, sir. Also, I thank Dr. Siddhivinayak Barve, sir, our SRC director, with whose assistance only we could request Dr. Jayaraman, sir, to deliver the lecture on this interesting topic. I'm thankful to the members of Kelkar, Sathe and Kulkarni families for their august presence in this meeting. I thank Vice Chancellor, Mumbai University, Dr. Suhas Pednekar, sir, officials from Mumbai University also for honoring our request. Thank you, members of Educational Board present for today's lecture. The members of Management Committee, Srimati Jyoti Bhadkamkar Madam, Shri Ramesh Vaze sir, Secretary of the Trust and our Founder Principal Dr. Kurup sir, CA Burkar sir, I thank you all for being our constant source of inspirations. Our supporter and our guide in all our endeavors, Principal Dr. B.B. Sharma sir, Degree Vice Principal Professor Preeta Nilesh Madam, Junior College Vice Principal C.A. Vidyadhar Joshi sir, my sincere thanks to you for helping us in meticulous organization of today's event. I thank all the dignitaries from Mulund, especially invited today to grace the occasion. This type of event cannot happen overnight. The wheels started moving about a month ago. It required planning and bird's eye for the details. We have been very fortunate to be supported by a team of very active and dedicated teaching and administrative members of our organization who are all well versed in their jobs. I thank today's anchor, Shri Manoj Sangare sir, our student Miss Prachi, our technical team from our own committee as well as from outside the committee who are our own staff members and colleagues, and our program team for working wholeheartedly for making today's event wonderful. The conveners of various committees, the administrative and the office staff, especially Miss Ankita from college office, who attended tirelessly to of my gratitude. Our thanks are due to Mr. Hitesh Thakkar for providing us the Zoom platform for conduct of today's program. And how can I forget our audience, consisting of all our retired principals, degree vice principals, including our founder vice principal, Dr. Laul sir, vice principals and supervisors of junior college, some of our retired staff members, our teachers of degree and junior college, students of all the streams, our administrative staff members, and one and all. Pardon me if I have not mentioned some name or anybody accidentally. Once again, a big thank you for everybody. Thanks all.
Thank you so much, madam. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you tomorrow morning for one more lecture. By Dr. Ashutosh Zavdekar on the topic Kadhi Geet Kadhi Naad, अर्थात हिंदी सिने संगीत ऐकताना. Now I request Ms. Prachi Joshi, our TYBA student, for concluding the today's program by the national anthem, and I request all to rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंग, तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मागे, गाहे तव जय गाथा, जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, जय हे जय हे जय हे, जय 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 हे. Thank you everyone.